need to see representation. Like, yeah, you could leave and uproot and take your knowledge with you, um, but what does that do for people that you know potentially had something to gain from being able to relate to your story in the first place? Of course, like individual gain has to matter in terms of like your overall future and career and everything like that, but I think it is really rewarding to be able to like speak to and make better a community that you already appreciated for the fact that you grew up in it.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Team Reinvented Gaming Podcast. I'm here with our guest, Jasun Ramirez, one of my very good friends. He's an entrepreneur. He does a little bit of everything, and I can't wait to talk to you about what your goals are, and some stuff going on in our community because we're both from Long Branch. Obviously, we grew up together. We were friends all through high school and everything. So I can't wait to see you know what we talk about and what wisdom gets
Yeah.
transpired on this podcast.
We
So
will see.
yeah, man. So today, I drove through Pier Village for the first time in like 5 years, right? And
Mhm.
I don't know if you've been there recently. I'm pretty sure you've been there before I have, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I actually saw what they built, and like it was weird. It was like a love hate relationship. I liked that they built things up and that was very modern and that they added like a 7-Eleven and like an arcade and everything like that. And I was like, what was this when we were in
Yeah.
high school? But it was actually good because I was like, no, that's good. That's gonna give people jobs and that's going to like help the community and it gives the kids in the community something to do other than sit on corners. Um, so no, which is very interesting for me. And I wanted to know like, what are your thoughts about the community that we grew up in growing? Like, and I know that's probably a weird question. Like, why would I ask that? But I want to hear your thoughts and see if you felt the same way
Mm,
I felt.
well, I feel like I always try to tell people that to understand Long Branch, honestly, you have to be from there. Um, we come from a very diverse community, both ethnically, culturally, and even economically, because you have the bottom of the bottom, you have the top of the top, in the surrounding areas and within the city itself. So really, when you drive through Pier Village, I think people often get a very large misrepresentation of what the culture of the city is actually like. I think Pier Village is it representative more so of what the city is trying to attract, not necessarily what the population consists of.
Mm.
So I feel like I understand the feeling too of like it being kind of bittersweet because like you of course you want to see your town be uplifted and see more beautiful buildings, see more people appreciate the place, but it seems less of an appreciation of the place as it is an appreciation of just the tourist attraction Pier Village itself. So sometimes I definitely feel like it can take away from the actual culture of the people because I don't, and maybe I'm just uninformed, but I don't see the money made from Pier Village going back to the infrastructure of the actual community when I look at streets like Broadway that still could be improved in a way that I think would be more appealing to the actual citizens of Long Branch than the tourists that decide to come through in the summer, but otherwise have no interest or vested investment in Long Branch itself.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
No, that definitely makes sense. Um, it's definitely I don't say money train, but it definitely is economically profitable for the country. I mean, not for the country, for the city.
Yeah,
So I know why they are doing what they're doing. But yeah, it definitely doesn't give an actual insight into what it's like to live in Long Branch and to be from Long Branch and to experience, growing up in Long
right.
Branch. Um, and I was telling you this, like a couple weeks ago, but I want to stay in Jersey because, well, this whole thing of community, I shall say, always gets me thinking. Like when I came back from the Marine Corps into the States, I was like, no, when am I gonna live and stuff like that? And Jersey is an expensive place, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? Instead of leaving the state because it's expensive, right? Which is probably the smarter thing to do. Go to somewhere where there's a better cost of living, maybe even more strategically advantageous for my business. Why don't I just stay? Why don't I stay in a state that I actually I do enjoy, right? And I'm familiar with where my family is at and my friends are at, and make it better instead of running away from it. How can I adapt to the situation it is and make that state, make my town, make my city better? Um, And I know I could do that through my business, which is why I talked to the high school, talking through, the Garden State esports for New Jersey and everything like that. But yeah, I was just thinking about that, and I think a lot of us nowadays, just as a country, are like, you got to go down south because it's just better, it's cheaper, taxes are high. I'm
Mm.
like, hey, I'm instead of running from these things, and yeah, those problems should be addressed. I'm just thinking, Lauren, I'm gonna adapt. And I'm gonna become so so involved and so knowledgeable that I can overcome those um those factors. If that makes sense.
Mm.
So,
I think that makes sense. I think also it speaks to, or it will speak to, when you're in certain positions, to children that were like us in Long Branch, that, or even in different situations than us, but we're still from similar community, similar communities that need to see representation. Like, yeah, you could leave and uproot and take your knowledge with you, um, but what does that do for people that you know potentially had something to gain from being able to relate to your story in the first place? Of course, like individual gain has to matter in terms of like your overall future and career and everything like that, but I think it is really rewarding to be able to like speak to and make better a community that you already appreciated for the fact that you grew up in it. But and not specifically just Long Branch, but New Jersey in general, because honestly, New Jersey's like, it's a relatively small state, and
mm-hmm.
honestly, like New Jersey has its own culture. So like, if you're from any
Yeah,
part of Jersey, you're from Jersey. Um, I think it's rewarding to be able to give back to a community that helped contribute to who you are. I mean, like I said, I feel like the skills you gain socially from the place we came from, specifically Long Branch, but just overall New Jersey in general, with all of its culture, allows you to speak to a lot of different types of people, um, in terms of socioeconomically, racial wise, culture wise, education level. I feel like, why not also pour back into the community that poured into you? You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's the way I feel about it. And not to say that you can't expand past, but I think it's a good starting ground to be able to like first water the garden that has already given you fruit, than to go make a new garden.
yeah. I totally agree. Totally agree. So let's dive into, you're going to school right now, right? To get your master's,
Yep.
and
Yep.
is it a master's in guidance counseling? Or is it
School counseling. It's
school
yeah,
counseling?
it's an MA in school counseling.
Okay. How's that going? How's that going so far?
I actually start next month, so
Okay.
I can't say, I can't
Yeah.
say just
I
yet.
thought you started already.
I am excited.
Okay. I thought you started already. I thought you told me.
No, no, no.
Sorry. I
I
must
no,
have
I
heard you
start
wrong.
next month.
I must have heard
No,
you
it's all
wrong.
good.
So,
Yeah, so I start next month, and it's in school counseling, also with the 6 class extension, so that I can get my get working on my LAC, and then eventual LPC.
okay.
So yeah.
Nice. So you want to be a guidance counselor,
Hmm.
and I think that obviously speaks testament to like what you just said about giving back and actually having a representation
Yeah.
for kids to look at. Um, I probably asked this before. Why guidance counselor in particular? And it's probably going to be the same rhetoric you just spoke of. But
It's a little different, only for the fact that speaking more to kids that weren't necessarily in my position. I feel like I still know many people in life that I think were guided in the way of like, hey, just go to college, get your degree, do this, do that, whatever. Very streamlined. And if you weren't going to college, at least for my situations I've heard of, they didn't really have much to offer you anyway. For me, I mean, I guess it made sense for me to go straight to college coming out of the high school we went to. Um, I was an honor student, AP student, things of that nature. But honestly, like, the conversations weren't really to inform me as to the experience I was getting into, or even why I was going to college in the first place.
mm-hmm.
It was more just like to get me there. And like, I mean, honestly, all I knew was like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to do that now.
Yeah,
I'd never considered community college. I never considered trade school. I never considered um, the factors I should really be thinking about when going to college. Not just like parties and curriculums, and I mean, you got to consider money. You have to consider your mental health in terms of like, is being away from your family for an extended period of time something you could be comfortable with?
Yeah.
Does the school you're going to specialize or have a really good offering in terms of like the program that you're even trying to focus in? Do you want to go to college? Are you ready to go to college? Like, there's so many things to wonder and talk to these kids about, because I think kids, and when I say kids, I mean like teenagers
Yeah.
specifically, but like, you're at like the apex of forming your identity in terms of, you got all this input. Parents want you to do one thing. You think you want to do one thing. Your friends want you to do one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Social pressures. You don't even really know yourself like that. Think about yourself at 18. There's a bunch of shit I wanted at 18
Yeah.
that now I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know I wanted that.
Yeah.
So to jump into college, is a huge leap that is, I think, overly normalized. If anything, trades
Yeah.
are still available. I mean, like, there's so many options in life. I just want to have people really take a seat, explore yourself, explore what you want to do, and let me help you set up your own future, that you're not pigeonholed into something and then halfway through college you're like, I don't even know where the fuck I belong here.
Yeah. So, what would you do different at 18? What piece of advice would you give your 18-year-old self right out of high school?
Mm.
What would you have done differently? Would you have done anything differently? Maybe like.
I I I hate to give that like cliche answer, but like, at the end of the day, like, things go how they're supposed to. But if I mean, if there were conversations I could have had with my 18-year-old self, they would have been very emotionally awakening conversations, or considerations in terms of like, hey man, calm down. The timeline does not have to be what you think it is. Because at 18, I know I had a thing of like, all right, first graduate this, then I get my graduate degree at this age. By 29, I'll have wife, kids, house, all that. At this age now, and I'm only 25, so take that with a grain of salt. But you 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 don't have to, the teenage pace of like, I need this now, instant gratification,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's positive instant gratifications, they could slow down a little bit, man. Like, I also want teenagers to understand that too. Like, you have your whole life to craft yourself and craft your life into what you want it to be. You don't have to, at this exact moment, make this life changing decision. You could take a year off. You could, not to say that I would have done this, but the
Yeah.
possibilities.
Yeah.
So that's the conversation I would have had. Like, hey, take 5 seconds. That's it. Just take 5 seconds. See what you think about when your brain's not so busy thinking overly about years that are not even all within your control. So much can happen within 5 years that your 5 year plan goes out the window tomorrow.
Yeah. Makes sense. I think I was I was thinking it was a little bit opposite at 18. At 18, I was very open to the possibilities. So like, I went to
Oh, okay.
college. So here's the thing: I went to West Virginia University after high school, because I wanted to be a surgeon. That's my thing. I want to be a surgeon, stuff like that. But then during college, I knew about entrepreneurship, and I saw like my eyes got open because I started reading. The first book I actually probably ever read on my own without like school was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And my friend
Okay.
Miles at West Virginia University told me about that book. I read it, and that opened my eyes, bro. That was like, oh, you can make money doing it this way. You can be an entrepreneur. You can have this time, freedom, ambition, and like my brain is fucking exploded because I was like, oh my god, all this stuff. So I kind of had the opposite problem. I was too visionary, if that makes sense. Like I have a
Mm,
problem being too ambitious rather than being very structured, right? And that bites me in the ass sometimes. So I think I had the opposite problem.
interesting.
I probably would have told myself to be like more realistic at that age rather than
Right.
more open. And
Dude,
who knows?
and that's another conversation I have with teenagers. Because yeah, you might be a dreamer that has all these ideas, and it is totally possible that you might be able to achieve all these things. But we have to also logically plan and think about how we get from step A
Yeah,
to step B to step C, and then is it going to make sense in the timeline? This is a really, like,
yeah,
it's about, or I'm really just trying. I want to help teenagers organize their thoughts. You have a lot of thoughts, and sometimes it makes sense to just like, not necessarily put it in a planner, but just go through the realisms of things. And it makes total sense to want to be an astronaut and shit. Like, and I would never deter anybody from wanting to be one. But then I would go, okay, but do you want to be an astronaut and you want to be a physicist and you want to be and you want to be a teacher and you want to be this? We can do all these things, but let's also explore how we're gonna do all these things in a logical way that makes sense, so that you're not like 24 and you're like, damn, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna do any of that shit.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense, and I agree with that. Um, you know what's a lot going on today? Mental health is a big
Mm.
thing nowadays, man. Actually, I did a video on mental health actually on my company's YouTube channel a couple of days. Um, and I did it on like if you don't feel like doing anything, just take it one small task at a time. If that's
Hmm.
like getting out of bed, even if that's showering, because action motivation follows action, not the other way around.
Yep.
Um, and it's interesting, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's like I am writing something
Okay.
that deals with me building this company and what's actually going on behind the scenes in my mind, and as a man, as I become that man needed to build my company into what I envision it to become. Um,
And that's a whole nother thing, man. People only ever see like the pictures. We live in a social media era where, like you only see the end result that was cleaned up, that was polished for years. But you didn't see the blood, sweat, and I hate, to be
be like,
cliche again, but the
yeah,
blood, sweat, and tears that really go behind things. Family stuff could be happening. Personal stuff could be happening.
that, and and I don't mean to cut you off, but
Oh yeah.
um, when we were like, yeah, what you said is a big thing, bro. Um, because a lot there's a everybody wants to be an entrepreneur nowadays, right? Like that's the thing. It's called entrepreneurial seizure, is what some books coined it as, right? And if somebody sees something, they hear the word passive income, they see the words 9 to 5 is a scam in a picture of a private jet, and now they automatically want to be an entrepreneur. But yeah, social media has really given us a facade of what life actually is, and you see, and I remember being 21, right, and seeing like these millionaire kids like on yachts. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? How come they get that, And like the thoughts going through your head, and like I'm self-aware enough to be like, oh well, no, it's not always like that, but like those thoughts creep in. And for somebody who doesn't have, that mental strength or that self-awareness, that could really be detrimental. So I wonder, like, as technology grows and as social media becomes even more prevalent and as new forms of proprietary technology come out, what is that gonna do to the human psyche? Like, and as a psychology major, and like, I want to know your thoughts about that. Like, is there gonna be a ceiling for these social media companies and stuff like that?
Well, let me start by saying that I am definitely a person that comes more from a humanistic perspective when it comes to psychology. So I likely don't have facts to back, like the facts and stats to back what I believe when it comes to social media and its relationship with us. But will there be a limit? I, Honestly, I don't think so. I think people's hedonism will always feed into, well, put it this way, stimuli is not new. Like, we know that even in the past, inebriation was something that people found fun. Drugs were something that people found fun. Um, Stimulus is always going to be fun or
Mm-hmm.
interesting to people because people are bored. It's just
Mm-hmm.
it. People want entertainment. People want their brain to get jogged. I and then also people want validation, and I feel like that's a big thing that people that's fed now with this whole social media era. And not that I think it's inherently wrong to want to be validated because we all want to be validated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the way the validation is found in a world, and I mean digital world, it's not even real. It has been able to, we've now integrated into real life so much that it can produce real results in the actual world in terms of money, in terms of physical gain, in terms of like, I don't know, literally like transportation, and the relationship it has to the real world is
Yeah.
complicated now to the point that it is that integrated into actual life. But at the end of the day, like it isn't real. If all the computers shut down tomorrow, what do you have? Some people literally might say nothing. Like they might literally have nothing. And to me, that just doesn't make sense. Like
No, it makes sense to me.
You
It's sad.
no,
Yeah.
I that's what I and you know what it's funny though because inversely you have a company that would not even exist without
Yeah.
the digital world. And I'm not and this is why I'm not trying to demonize it, but I'm saying the way that it is used to manipulate people, and I'm manipulate maybe a little too um direct in that maybe that's not the direct intention to manipulate, but it is used to manipulate regardless in terms of using these numbers to streamline us things. Like if we talk about a certain product right now, we'll probably see that product on our phones later.
Yeah.
The selling of information, the selling of lifestyle, the selling of aesthetic, the selling of ourselves. Really, like we've turned into brands. You're on Instagram,
Yeah.
even if you don't have a product that you sell, you are the product now.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that going from a person to an object on the internet has to do something to your psyche because you're kind of intertwined in that whole like belief in that you are that object. So if people don't like your pictures, people don't comment on positively on your stuff, people don't give you interactions, I would imagine you're going to feel negatively because the object that represents you is not seen favorably. So I would imagine it has some relationship to uh um our mental health.
Okay. Yeah. I agree. You hit the nail on the head. I really can't stand any more on that. Um, I think we just have to every day just be self aware and
Yeah,
understand that like, hey, if you use social media, like I use social media for my company. This podcast is gonna be on YouTube. Like
right.
um, understanding its purpose and make sure you use it for not, I would say, selfish reasons. To don't not to boost your ego essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I say use it, use it knowingly.
Yeah.
Like when you unknowingly use social media and like these digital things, it is easy to not be aware of what you're contributing to in terms of your own change in psyche,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of your own furthering of addiction to stimulus. Because like the more you're on these digital objects, these electronic objects, the more you're gonna crave stimulus. Regular life is boring now. Why would I go on the walk in the woods when I could be on YouTube watching this or that, or I could be on my phone doing this? You got to make sure that you do things on electronics, and not even just social media, like even video games and things like that,
Yeah.
knowingly and with a purpose, knowing that like you have a schedule, like I'm going on this thing so I could post this thing. I'm going on this game so I could play this game. I'm going on this. I'm not getting lost in the digital world that it's consuming too much of my real life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah. And I wonder. I know. I was gonna say I wonder if stimulus addiction is a real thing, but I never thought to put those two words together, stimulus addiction. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, I can only imagine how many of us have stimuli addiction and
I,
and,
I
and how that feeds into other parts of our lives.
I'd be interested to read into whether the line for ADHD has been pushed because I mean, at one point, ADHD, a need for stimulus. I'm sure the baseline of a need for stimulus was a lot lower than it would be in an era when your phone literally gives you instant gratification every like couple seconds.
Yeah.
Like I can only imagine what that does neurologically.
Yeah, I gotta be more about that. I really have to be more about that. I don't know if you know any books or recommend any psychology books.
I am not. I learn from people. I don't learn from books, unfortunately. So
Hey,
like that's also why I said like take things with a grain of salt because I just like to be an observer of life.
so you have okay.
Yeah. Like, but I'm not much of it. Not to say that books aren't a representation of those same observations and data. It's just that I tend to like to learn from. I really like learning from people themselves because I feel like it's just such a story to tell and relate to other people when you like just listen to people and observe. Like
Mm-hmm.
even the differences in social interaction from when we were kids up till now is so interesting, especially because like me and you are from a generation where like our childhood, I didn't have an iPad.
Yeah,
iPads,
we didn't we went
it
outside
didn't
and played
exist.
football, Go play wall
Yeah,
ball, stick
right.
ball, and everything.
But at the same time, when in our identity forming years of teenage years or adolescence years, we got phones, like real cell phones. Like
Mm,
we're like it's like a complicated apex of change
yeah,
where we have kind of like a two sides of the coin. Meanwhile, like younger kids, they came out the womb with a phone.
yeah, yeah,
like I can only imagine like what gaps
yeah.
and differences
And
in
then vice
perspective.
about
Yeah,
vice versa. Our parents grew up like went through most of their adult life without without iPads, without iPhones, and now they're in the
yeah,
40s, no 50s, and now they have this technology. But they're probably more they're so used to an old way that's like it's interesting. Yeah, so we're really in a interesting generation where we see both sides of the coin, and I think that's going to play a part. I think our generation gonna play a part in politics as we get older. I'm not gonna try to have too much of political talk. We can if you want, but I'd be
nah,
interested
I'll
to
pass.
see. Yeah, we'll pass on that. Say that for a different guest. No, but well, I'm interested to see when we're eligible to be president. When we're 35, right? When our generation is eligible to be president, to see what kind of decisions start happening for our country. Um, in
Yeah, I
regards to
mean,
what's I don't care regardless of what's happening now, but I'm just interested to see the tameness, if there even is any tameness of the decision making process of our
yeah,
generation.
I can't wait to see censorship politics when it comes to internet and stuff by the time that we're like 40 something years old. I mean, it's already kind of a conversation now,
Mm-hmm.
like with the whole like net neutrality stuff a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not even a few years ago, like fairly recently in terms of like the timeline of the internet. But um, it's interesting, like to see how much control there might have to be, or even the situation that happened with Zuckerberg and the whole selling of data. Like I'm really interested to see like what happens with this whole internet thing because to me at this point, like I mean, we even have virtual reality video games. If you wanted to, you could just like
Escape.
be some video game character.
Yeah.
For most, you hook yourself up to an IV tube and you just stay in the VR game. I mean, you
Hey,
might as well just be a
we
fucking
laugh now,
video
but
game character,
we laugh now, but I guarantee you I see you on some fucking
right?
Facebook ad. But
I'm telling you,
don't fucking give me no IV fucking ads, Mark. I know you're listening. Like,
yeah, I'm telling you, man. It
oh
like
shit.
it's really interesting that like with the era we live in, and I don't know, maybe they could have said this in other generations too, but it's really interesting that the dystopian novels I used to read, like 1984, Brave New
Mm-hmm.
World, things like that. This looks a lot like how they were trying to pitch it with we could talk to each other through a screen. Um, our TVs could be the size of our walls. Literally, you could have a wall that is a TV. The cell phones thing. We don't cars that may be driving themselves soon. Like it's so crazy, man. Like it's I don't know that I don't know. I'm interested. I'm not gonna say I'm excited. I'm not gonna say that I'm like scared. I'm just interested because I just want to see if the powers that be take the reins on this, or we kind of just let this technological boom go until something bad happens that makes us go, maybe we need some more controls.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
I'm
I'm
very
interested too.
interested.
So we're ending here pretty shortly. We got like a few more minutes. I'm got two more questions. The first one is, where can people find you? Do you want to learn more about you? I know you're into psychology, a psychology major, you're an entrepreneur. You've done music in the past as well, which I didn't get to hit on. Um,
That's all good, man.
but where can people
Um,
find you? And I know you're not. I know you're not big on social media, so like I know that's probably a
yeah.
weird question, but if you do put
On
out any projects or anything like that, um,
my stuff, honestly, man, really the only place you can find me pretty much is like YouTube or Facebook, to be
okay.
honest. Like so I do make music. I'll just touch on it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like I rap and sing. A lot of my stuff tends to be pretty introspective. So if anybody did want to check out my music, it is available on Spotify, pretty much all streaming platforms. I'm not
Yeah.
going to go through all of them.
Yeah, and I'll put the
Um,
links. I'll put the links in the video. You guys send me that.
got you. Okay, yeah, yeah. So the links will be in the video. My artist name is Jay. Um, my full name is, as on the screen, Jasun Ramirez. You can find me on Facebook if you were to. I'm not likely to add you, only for the fact that I use this for fans and family. To be honest, I
I
don't know. I'm
know.
sure
Yeah.
I've probably already given the impression that I'm not a social media person. I'm
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
I like to do things in real life. Things I do want to shout out though are like programs like Meal at Noon in a Long Branch where you can, if you contact Brian Griffin, you can help out with a soup kitchen that they have over there. With COVID, obviously there's certain restrictions and stuff, but opportunities like that I feel like are, to me, more important than shouting my own stuff out anyway. Because I don't know how you would be able to support them, but I would love for people to get in contact with I said Brian, I meant to say Byron. Get in contact with Byron because I'm sure soup kitchens all over the country probably are began to struggle after COVID happened. I mean, there's just like been shortages of everything.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see what contributions people might want to make.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the last question is, how do you want to reinvent your industry? Very open-ended question for you. I know that. Once again, it might be the same rhetoric
interesting.
we heard before, but in simplest terms, how do you want to
Um,
reinvent your industry?
my reinvention will come from something we didn't really talk about, but I am very much interested in getting involved in later on in life is building my Spanish ability to the point that I can be fluent because I do believe that adult ESL is an issue that is not tackled enough in terms of the fact that children of people who don't speak English fluently often have to be kind of the translators for their parents, and that includes a child having to grow up faster than they should have to, especially in a country where we're growing to have more Spanish speaking population, but if you want to go get a business loan and you can't fluently be able to speak English or say the words that you want to communicate, I don't know that business loan is gonna get given to you
Yeah.
if you don't bring your child who speaks better English than you. Um, Interviews for jobs that aren't just labor jobs. I'm interested in helping people with that. Even doing your own paperwork so that you can get health care, so that you can get your children into school, so your child doesn't have to pretty much fill out the paperwork in their own school setting. Adult ESL is something that I want to really tackle. And then by extension, when I get my counseling certification, working with bilingual families, because as we know in Black and Spanish communities, mental health often is not a popular subject. I mean, it's not a popular subject with a lot of people, but like particularly in these kind of cultures, it's not very mainstream yet. And I would like to change that narrative.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's very interesting. I like that. That's different. And definitely something that's going to be needed, and something that if you do succeed at, would definitely make a big change in that industry in that field.
yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
So, but guys, that's it. Jasun, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
We'll talk a little bit after this, and other than that, guys, I will see you guys in the next one.
Yeah,
Peace.
thank you for having me, man.
No problem.